Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome back to the Rock the Stage Show. It's the premiere of the fall 2025 schedule, and we're glad to have you with us here tonight. I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager, and we are in for a great show this evening. But before we get going, you need to know 2025, we've been expanding further and further. We now are streaming, of course, on YouTube. You can join our premiere nights every Sunday night, new shows in 2025. But we're also on the Brave Arts TV network. We're on Amazon Fire, Roku TV, and on IPTV as well. Join us wherever you're streaming and getting your content on these many different networks. You know, have you ever wanted to climb the top of the mountains, sleep on the edge of a mountain, way up high? Have you ever got the sense of adventure, but it's not normal adventure like everyone else does? Maybe you're just not satisfied because you have to go further and further, right? Maybe you're a leader, an entrepreneur that wants to reach the peak of your field. That's always a great thing. Tonight, we're climbing higher and higher, literally and figuratively. Get ready for stories that are going to take your breath away, make you maybe grab the rest of your armchair tonight. You're also going to learn about stories, strategies, and unstoppable momentum in your own leadership journey. Tonight, my guest is Manley Feinberg, an award-winning keynote speaker, best-selling author, and business leader who likes to sleep, yes, on the side of a mountain. Really, he does. His unique blend of adventure and executive leadership spans over 25 countries, and he helped Build-A-Bear grow from $55 million to nearly $500,000. He equips teams to build exponential commitment and breakthrough momentum. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical strategies that I mentioned, but more importantly, we're going to get to that next summit here tonight. Welcome, Manley Feinberg, to Rock the Stage Show.
What's up, Rich? How are you?
See, he's all set up, man. He's camping. You're ready all the time, aren't you?
Trying to be.
Do you have a backpack already ready? Do you have your gear ready to go to Mobile Snows?
Absolutely. It's at the garage. I have it at the edge of the garage, right, at the door, which I've always thought, like, if somebody busts in my garage, they're going to get what I use the most immediately. But it makes it easier to grab and get out to the hills, right? So, yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun. Now, we're talking backstage. I've been in Colorado, I've hiked Colorado, I've jeeped Colorado, but I've not gotten off the edge where you've gone off the edge. And you've done 1,000 climbs or more, right?
More than that, several thousand. Yeah, I've lost track. So it's been, I've been doing it for 33 years now. So it's, and I don't get out that regularly compared to a lot of my friends who are more professional or regular, but it adds up. You do anything that long, you're going to get some experience, of course. So
now, my younger brother used to hang off cliffs and hold my brother. Literally, we have video of him holding my brother dangling while he was hanging. But what first got you to get on the side of the mountain and go for it?
In college, I worked at UPS loading boxes, and my supervisor, training supervisor, then it was our belt supervisor. He'd always encourage me to come camping with him down in the Red River Gorge in Kentucky. I grew up in Kentucky. And so finally I gave in. I said, all right. And I've never really even been camping, and hadn't really had no experience in the wilderness. This is when I was 19, 2000. It would be in 1992. So anyway, we go camping, hanging out. And the next day on Saturday, I'm like, well, what do we do? We're not hanging out about a campfire at night, drinking beer or whatever. He's like, well, we'd come, we'd climb around and scramble on these boulders. It's basically what we call bouldering, right? So we didn't have ropes, but very small, 5, 10, 15 foot little rocks that we scrambled through. And they had a little, what we call a circuit, like a series of, they said, well, we'll do this one, then we kind of go over here. And so I was able to keep up with them and do it pretty well. And then we got to the very last one, and there was only one gentleman, a guy named Steve in the group, who was really good at climbing. And he was the only one who could make it up this boulder. And then they said, you should try it. You've got some talent. So I got halfway up and I was freaking out, and they coached me through it, and I got to the top, and I just felt like I was plugged into the source. It was a completely transformational moment in my life.
Well, I'm known as a clinger. I'm sure you know what a clinger is. I've tried to climb. I've done ladders, ropes, a little bit of early free climbing, but I cling and I can't move. How do you overcome that fear of clinging and feeling like you're not safe. How do you get beyond that?
The equipment is a big piece of it, but really the bigger piece is the trust between the human being that's holding the rope for you, right? So that, and this was really comes into a lot of my work with organizations around, building teams that are more committed to stepping up in their work, is that somebody is literally, when we expect to fall. This is my current newsletter. I have a little video about this. People say, well, do you ever fall when you climb? And I'm like, yeah, we fall quite, sometimes in certain styles of climbing, you fall regularly because you're pushing yourself. And so we're human. We know we expect to fall.
Right.
So we build systems to allow us to fall safely. And that system, the heart of that system is essentially another human being holding the rope for you in their hands, which is a really, really one of my most powerful lessons. It's called the belay, B-E-L-A-Y, right?
I've heard the term. I've never understood what it means besides you're going now.
Right. Yeah, when you're on belay for someone, you're literally holding the rope and you're encouraging them, saying, I got you. Go. I've got the rope in my hands. If you fall, I'm going to lock the rope off. You're not going to hurt yourself. And you're going to be able to get moving again as quickly as possible. So really, that's what it comes down to. And you're in those moments where I do have moments, not every time I climb. If it's a really moderate terrain, I may have a day where I don't have any single moment where I'm really worried about falling. But often if you're pushing, sooner or later, you're going to have a moment where you're like, oh, or you slip. And you got to know that the person's paying attention, they're present, they know what they're doing, they're competent, and that you trust that they're going to have your life in their hands. So that's really what enables us to move past those moments of fear.
So I heard a quote that I absolutely love, but I can't believe this to be true. So be the myth buster here for me. But I thought I heard you say once, climbing a mountain is safer than driving a car.
It's true. Yeah. And people don't believe that. Well, it depends on climbing. It depends on what kind of climbing specifically. So
okay,
I'll elaborate here some. So rock climbing, even highly technical rock climbing on a vertical face, is 10 times safer than driving a vehicle. And that's the statistics that came from life insurance underwriters. So high altitude mountaineering, over 8,000 meter peaks, it's much more dangerous than driving a car, actually. Another thing that's much more dangerous than driving a car is actually bicycling. Riding a road or road cycling is actually much more dangerous than climbing specifically. But people ride their bike all the time with no helmet, right? And get out on a road with traffic. And like, I will not ride my bike on the road going up to Estes Park. And I see cyclists up there all the time. That's way outside of my risk tolerance. Yet I'll live on the side of El Cap for a week with people that know what they're doing. Which
you'll sleep on the edge of a mountain, literally hanging.
Right, motorbike, and they're like, "What is wrong with you?" Right? That's but yeah, I get it. Fair enough. Who in their right mind would do that? Right? We got to be honest. Right.
Now, I do want to take you back because as a businessman, you've had an exceptional career, but you helped Build-A-Bear grow to over $470 million. Now, I love Build-A-Bear.
470 million. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So tell us about that business side and the Build-A-Bear experience, because I know it all does eventually blend together.
Yeah, it was really, sometimes you have in life these opportunities that come your way and that you don't really even, I realized that it was an amazing opportunity at the time. They recruited me. I was running an outdoor retail business, like basically an REI type of outdoor store in Kentucky. And we had bought the same point of sale system that the founder of Build-A-Bear bought for her first store, Maxine Clark. And then the person and his wife who helped her implement her system helped me implement this new system for our store. So I'd had this relationship. She hired that gentleman, his name Michael Segura, a dear friend of ours. He and his wife, Jackie, literally changed my life. A few years later, he was starting to hire people in the IT department. And when he got his authorization to hire his first person, his wife called me actually and said, "Hey, Michael's looking to hire someone." It was like the third call before they had the position that was really what I wanted to focus on more, which was business systems. I really enjoy using technology to make better business decisions and business process, because I came from retail. I love business. I love people, operations, and all that, and leadership and all those sort of things. So the two of us together went around and basically went system to system and implemented a new best of breed business system for every single process in the whole organization from A to Z. Everything from the ERP to warehousing and sales audit, HR, financials, anything and everything it took to grow that business. And really to do that well, you really need to dive into business. And I love business process. So it's just really, it threw the people off on the business side at first. They're like, "Well, where did you come from?" Like, you're not like you sit in IT. I'm like, yeah, I want to help you grow the business. Let's work on this together. So I partnered with people in a different way that gave me a lot of really good rapport early on. And then also later on in my career that I moved into, I still stayed in my primary positions of global support and operations, but I voluntarily took a position to help teach our leadership and development classes.
How many bears
yeah,
did you build?
we must have over 100, because my kids it was a great age too, right? My children were, when we first moved up there, Manley was Manley version 3.0, who's the person in the portaledge back here in the photo. He's my main climbing partner. He was 6 months old, and then we had our daughter there. So the kids grew up with us at Build-A-Bear as well. So they would help test out new products, give feedback. Little fun trivia moment. A lot of people have bears that have a "I love you" or a giggle sound in them.
Okay.
Especially in the old days before we had the recorded sound. So my daughter's voice is she wasn't initially, but after a few years, they wanted to re-record the giggle and the "I love you," and my daughter's voice ended up being that voice. So her voice is literally in millions of teddy bears worldwide, which is kind of wild. So we have about 100 probably bears, I guess, or something, and we've given some away over the years, but there's certain ones we've hung on to. It just was part of the fabric of our family, right? So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
so
it's a great experience.
Now you are an author, you're a public speaker, but you also work with your audiences about facing chaos and uncertainty in business. So tell us about vertical lessons, just a little bit. Tease it up here a little.
Most of those lessons have really come from the climbing experiences, because it's really what I've found is that there's climbers think differently. And the commitment it takes to get up a mountain, as an example, it's a self-imposed struggle and suffering, right? So that the mindset and how people do that and how they go about that is, I've noticed in business as well, a lot of overlapping factors that are in common with people who really step up in those environments and achieve.
Well, here's one of those quotes I got from you. Commitment always starts with motivation. I love that idea. So break that down. Why does motivation play so much into the commitment aspect that you're talking about?
That's a great. I think a lot of it, I think it's a piece we miss sometimes, that people ask you to say, "Come on, I need you to do this" or whatever. And I mean, we're taught to not push back, right? We want to be friendly and say yes and say I'm all in. But I think we miss the opportunity sometimes to say, "I see that you're really excited about this, and I want to get 100% behind it. But help me understand more of the why this is. Why is this so important to us? So why is it worth it for us to drop everything we're doing?" As an example, right? This happens all the time in business, and this is in Build-A-Bear. This is a constant. To grow an organization that fast, it's a constant chaos, right? There's always something different. There's always all these priorities. But asking people to step back and say, why would it be worth it? And for yourself, right, too, right? If I'm going to commit to the next level with this organization, why would that be worth it for me? It's actually the first vertical lesson in my book is decide if it's worth it. And then reevaluate that. Why would it be worth it to do this? What's at stake, or what do I want to achieve? And just be really clear about what are we really pushing for? Because life is tricky, right? And chaos, and we're getting pulled in so many different directions and so distracted. I think we don't do that enough to step back and make sure that it really is worth it for us to step up and do something, and get more engaged and commit. Because I think a lot of times we just end up drifting in complacency instead.
Well, yeah, and which goes into your whole thing about exponential commitment. Some people say they're committed until they hit the chaos, until they hit the wall, until the wheels fall off. But you're talking about exponential commitment. What the heck is that?
Yeah, that's a good. Do you want me to share that moment of how that?
Oh yeah, please jump in now, man.
Yeah, it's a bit of a story, so take a few minutes here, but it's worth it, I think, to hear the experience. So, in 2022, in this photo that's behind me here, my son and I are living on the side of El Capitan. So we had met a gentleman the summer before named Steve Schneider, who is considered one of the greatest climbers, big wall climbers in the history. He's at the time he approached me and pulled me aside. We were camping in Yosemite. He said, "Hey, Manley, I want you to be. I don't want, before I give it all up." And he shared this dream with the family. Actually, he's like, my hips bother me. They want to replace it. I've got my thumbs, hardly working. I've had diabetes for 20 plus years, and before I hang it up, I want to try to become the second person in the history of the world to climb El Capitan more than 100 times via 50 different routes. And so then later on that evening, he pulled me aside and asked me if I would be his partner. I said, I'm in, I want to do it. But he said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to lead many pitches." So leading means somebody's got to take the rope up the wall, right? And find the way. And like we said earlier, somebody's down there holding that rope for you, and that you trust is going to hold it. He said, "You're going to need to take the rope up the wall, do the leading of most of the pitches, which is a section of the climb." And so the more we talked about the climb he had picked, which is a very difficult climb, I got really nervous about it. I was like, I don't know, man. I think he said, you got it. I said, well, he said, well, we can call a third person on the team. And it was true. Most any hot heavy hitter, and he's got some really amazing climbing friends in his Rolodex. Literally, he's got a book. He has a flip phone. It's just an old school guy. He's a really amazing guy. Anyway, I said, hey, but what if my son was the third person for us? And he said, I'm in. I love that kid. And how many pitches of big wall climbing has he done, Manley, if he's going to be our third? I said, well, he's not led any pitches on a big wall yet, but he's climbed with me since he was 11 months old. So he goes, well, I know he's solid. He goes, we got to. This is your future, Manley. You got to pour into this kid, and we got to get him ready. He's going to be. He's going to be the. So we go back to that night. It was kind of fun. We go back to the Manley and the family. I said, Steve wants me to be his partner on this historic climb, and everybody's getting excited. And I said, Manley, he wants you to be the third. And then my son says, well, that's cool. I'm in. He goes, but just one thing. I don't want to lead any pitches. All right. So, Rich, what do you do when you got somebody in your realm that you see something in them that they don't see in themselves yet? Right. That's what great leaders do. Right. They shine a light on something. Right. And so, what a great leader does is not only shines a light on it, but just keeps it going until it's so bright they can't ignore it. Right.
Yeah.
So Steve and I both just kind of teamed up on Manley in this way. So we poured belief into him. I always say, second to love, belief is the most important gift we can give somebody. So 4 days up, we get to about 1,000 feet up the wall. It's actually where this photo was taken. We're literally about halfway up the wall. And about 10 p.m., Steve has already cooked his dinner and he's had one hot beer. He's already got everything taken care of. He's a pro. He's been doing this for 40 plus years. And, it's the next 2 hours, Manley and I are everything is a struggle. I don't know if you can imagine like having 8-pound bags of equipment and you're living on a wall that's not even vertical. It's actually overhanging. So everything you're hanging in your harness constantly. You can't stand on firm ground. It's kind of, it really wears you down. And you're physically putting out like a triathlon level or, massive marathon level of energy and output every day. So you're really exhausted. You're having to, too, mentally, there's another weight of mental load on you. You know that you're in an environment where it's safe, but you can't really, and you've got contingencies. So if you do screw something up, you've got ways where it's not just one little mistake does it. At the same time, your brain knows, hey, I'm in an environment that I've got to be on point, right? So all that wears on you. So it's midnight finally, and we hear this. We're about to cook dinner at midnight, and we hear this grumbling from behind us on the porta ledge. So maybe when you do the post production on this, you could show some video or something.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Of the two porta ledges where we're sleeping. Behind me to my left, there's actually a single red one of where Steve was sleeping. And we hear this grumbling and moaning from Steve's porta ledge. And I look back and he sits up about a foot on his porta ledge and he clutches his chest. And he said, it hurts. And he collapses back onto his porta ledge. I look over at my son. I said, Manley, Steve's in trouble, huh? And he said, yeah, Dad. And I happen to be oriented in a way that enabled me to get to Steve faster. So a question I'm sure you have, Rich, right here is, and everybody always wonders is, how do you not fall out of bed, right? So we always stay tied in so that we can't roll out of bed, or we can roll to the edge maybe. But so I make sure that I'm tied in, of course, and I use a tethering system basically so I can move across to Steve without ever being unclipped. I get to him, make sure he's tied in. My son follows behind me and sits up to my left. By the way, I'm totally freaking out. And my son
I was going to say, what is the adrenaline? Because earlier you're talking about the adrenaline can be bad, you can be over hyper. Right. So how are you regulating that in this moment?
Good question. I didn't do a very good job of regulating the moment. So I'm like already freaking out. So we got to call for a rescue. And my son he's such a more grounded and just like, he's just a version, we call him version 3.0 because he's Manley 3. And he's such an upgrade over my system. He's better in every way. And he's just really solid and grounded. And so he was like, Dad, take a deep breath. We got this. I said, we got to call for rescue. He said, Dad, let's call Dave and Tina. He said, take a deep breath. So I took a breath. So Dave and Tina are my son's girlfriend's parents, and they're both doctors. But it's 1 a.m. in Colorado, and he puts it on speakerphone. He dials Tina's phone first, not even a full ring. She answers the phone. Hey, what's going on, guys? So we relay the situation, and this basically have 2 doctors instantly on call, which is an insane little detail in itself, right?
Yeah.
Perfect cell phone connection, by the way, which was also very difficult on most of the climb. So they immediately start going into relay and triaging, and look here, check his eyelids, check his pulse. There's pupils dilating equally. All these little things to triage and figure out, did he hit his head today? Trying to assess what's going on. I thought he was probably having a heart attack from him clutching his chest, which in hindsight, a small cardiac event or some kind of distress could have been part of what was going on. But pretty early on, I said, hey, we could just call for rescue. And Tina says, well, how long would that take? And I said, about 3 hours. And she says, Manley, if it's a heart attack or a stroke, we're going to have to call for a rescue anyway. We think it's low blood sugar. You mentioned he's a diabetic. It might be high blood sugar. It might be low. This is a really big risk we're going to take, but we want you to start giving him sugar. Manley 2, give him something sweet. And so, and then said Manley 3, find his glucometer, his insulin needles, everything you might need to adjust his blood sugar one way or the other. So he had a GU energy pack, a sugar packet, like you use if you're exercising. We found in his little backpack that had all of his kit. And so I'm trying to feed it to him, but half of it's going on his mouth, half of it goes all over his face. And I barely get maybe half of the thing in his mouth. And because his skin's hanging off his body. He's ice cold. He's like half convulsing on the portal edge. It's just absolute chaos. And I'm totally freaking out. I get that in there and I'm like, hey, I'm out of the goo pack. And Tina said, what else do you have that's sweet? I said, I got these watermelon pucks. And I said, but I'm afraid they're like gummy pucks, but I'm afraid he's going to choke. She said, chew him up, feeding baby bird style. So I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Everybody's funny now, right? So I start chewing these up. I get them down to something manageable and literally baby bird feeding him these watermelon gummies. Get those going. And then Dave says, we got to get a blood test. So he said, Manley 3, hand him the thing to prick his skin. So his hands are covered in calluses.
Okay.
So they directed me to go to his legs. So I'm use the pricking device that you would use, in the doctor's office or whatever, all over his legs, all over his arms, both earlobes, not a single speck of blood. And they said, that's bad. Dave said, we're in trouble. His organs are pulling the blood in. We have to get blood. Manley 3, hand him a syringe with a needle on it. I was like, what? He said, you're going to stab him. So I go back to his legs, stab all over his legs, all over his arms, both earlobes, not a single speck of blood. And Dave said, we're in trouble. We got single digit minutes. Man, I have to get we're going to lose him. We got to get some blood out of him. We need to check the blood sugar level and all this. And about that moment, I just completely flipped out. I said, we got to call for a rescue. And Dave said, Manley 2, I need you to take a deep breath. It's like, big breath. He said, I need to hear another one. Say,
how old is Manley 2 at this
He's
point?
22.
He's 22.
Yeah.
He's going through this with you.
Oh, he was 22. Yeah, 22. Exactly. He's cool the whole time, right? His dad, hang in there. Deep breath. I'm freaking out. And then Dave says, Manley, you need to hear what we're going to say next. And then his wife, Tina, says, Manley, he's dying right now. In the next few minutes, he's going to either die in your arms or you're going to save his life. We believe it's low blood sugar. We believe you have everything you need to save his life, and we do not have time for a rescue. Are we clear? And something swept over me in that moment. You asked what exponential commitment is. And that moment, what I now call exponential commitment, I felt this sweep literally over my body, and I bear down. I remember in my mind, I'm not letting Steve Schneider die in my arms on the side of El Cap. I go back to his earlobe and stab through it over and over into my finger 7, 8 times. Finally get a little bitty speck of blood, and then take the glucometer, strip air. It takes 7 readings to finally get a reading. To cut this story a bit short in the horror of this moment, what's really turned the corner on this is that we had a bottle of Pedialyte, which is kind of crazy in and of itself because we never carried Pedialyte on the climb before. And Manley thought of it. He said, Dad, what about the Pedialyte? So I literally drop by drop, minute by minute, just literally nursed Steve back to health and to life. And he was literally on the edge less than 10 minutes from dying in my arms. Because he went completely limp in my arms when I freaked out, completely checked out. So finally, we're getting back up. So I'll finish it up here. So next morning, sun comes up. So he said, "What in the beep happened last night, man?" I feel like I got run over by a truck, right? So I said, "Bro, you were low on blood sugar. I was baby bird feeding you." He's like, "You were baby bird feeding me? What?" So we're all, he's freaking out. We're all crying and he's like, "You saved my life, man." I was like, "No, I didn't save your life." I said, "Look, Steve, if it'd been up to me, brother, you would have died, man." I did not save your life. And, he's like, "Well, we got in a friendly argument." He's like, "No, you all saved my life." Because I kept saying, and it's true. If Dave and Tina hadn't answered, if my son hadn't been there, or if Dave and Tina hadn't answered the phone, he would have died in my arms, no question. And here's the moment. So I said, "Steve, we've already, Manley and I have planned a way that we're going to self-rescue." We'll get us down, and when you feel better, we'll come back. Because Dave and Tina said he's going to be wrecked, and I don't know if he'll be able to function at all.
Right.
So and Steve goes, go down. We're not beep going down. We're going to the summit. He said, y'all saved my life. It's day 5. We're not going down. He said, I'm going to take the day off. You all take the rope, fix it. We call fixing the pitch, where you take the rope up higher, come back down. He said, y'all get the rope up, advance the rope. I'll stay here, and tomorrow I'm back on. Which is kind of mind-blowing in itself, right? So I call this exponential team commitment.
Yeah.
The team is not like just a little bit in, but all the way in. And here's the definition, and then really the turning point. Rich, if you pause the story right before Dave and Tina, when he goes, collapses in my arm completely, and Dave and Tina said, you got to hear what we're going to say next. If before that, if you'd said, hey, Manley, are you fully committed to saving this man's life? I would have said, of course I am. I'm 100% in, but I wasn't. See, I think I was 99% in. 1% of me didn't want him to die in my arms. I didn't believe I could even do it. I knew there were pros that could come and just bail me out. The best vertical rescue team in the world is down there in that valley. And I just wanted them to come bail me out and rescue me. But what I realized in that moment is the difference between 99% commitment and 100% commitment is not 1%. It's exponential. The impact in life when you say, I am all in.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, right? A relationship, a job, a business, something in your life. You say, I'm giving it everything I got. We're going to elevate this, whatever that moment of focus is.
Right.
It changes everything. That's why I call it exponential. It's not just 1% more. It completely changes everything, and it changes the people around you, right? When everybody has that level of commitment, it elevates everything.
Wow. My mind's going, I'll give it.
That's a lot, right?
No.
So, let me tell. I know it's a long segment for podcast.
No. But
TV show.
My first thought is you're hanging on a cliff on these platforms that you guys hang and you sleep on stuff. But you turn left, you turn right, you look down, and you are higher than high. So how do you keep your focus when your head's spinning with all the emotion, the adrenaline? How do you keep focus on the most important thing in him and his life while everything else looks nuts? How do you do that?
So I know breathing techniques to slow down. And here's a quick one for people, breathe in 4 seconds as an example, breathe out 8 seconds, make your out breath double, right? So your diaphragm gets involved and your vagus nerve starts to kick into parasympathetic to calm you down. So I was trying to do that some. I had to have my son remind me, and Dave and Tina, you got to take a deep breath, man. So from a biological, physiological standpoint, I was using that technique some.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I'm used to being in that environment. So like I've lived on the wall for like 64 days of different multi-day climbs over the years. And so that part I was aware of. The other part is just bearing down and like knowing in the moment, like being super hyper focused. And example, when he's handing me the glucometer, we did not have a clip-in point on it. It's a handheld little gadget, right? Like the size of a phone. And if we drop that, that's it, right? Instead, the only reason we knew that was his kit. When we at the base of the wall before we started, he goes, hey, he showed us this little backpack. This is where my insulin stuff is. If we drop this, it's game over. We'd have to come down. So there are things that mostly we have things clipped in so that if we drop something, even our spoon, right? Unless we're using it, we clip it in. But there were certain objects in this moment that we were just extra hyper vigilant and just literally focused and bared down in the moment to make sure we didn't drop them. So, because you're right, and if you can see from the photo, that if you look at the tip of the portaledge beside my head there, there's nothing. It's not.
There's nothing. That's what I'm saying. How do you?
It's so overhanging. It's going straight to the ground. Anything you drop, you're done. So,
yes, you're wanting to move. You're wanting to help. You're wanting to be as fast as you can, as safe as you can, and some of your body has got to either instinctively do it, or do you pull back and make sure you're okay, or in the moment you just go for it?
I mean, it's very habitual, like moving to get over top of him where I was straddling him. Yeah. In that moment, I'm like, it's like so ingrained that, and I'm like, even my climbing partners here, professional guides, say you're one of the safest climbers I've ever been around. So, example, I'm always clipped in with 2 locking carabiners, and I have friends that don't do locking carabiners. They have 2, but so that if I'm moving one, the other one's locked in. I'm always locked in. So. And it's still, even in that moment, I mean, you're so aware of it because that's one thing I think about climbing, that the way we are able to do it safely is that it feels as long as you're paying attention, you can get complacent and too comfortable.
Yeah.
But generally, you're like gravity's always there reminding you, right? And you might drop a wrapper or something accidentally every once in a while, like, oh, and it sort of like tightens you up because when you see gravity pull something away from you and you're like, oh, that's gone, you're constantly reminded. So whereas in day-to-day life, like in our work or driving our car, we're sort of on autopilot, right? I think this is one of the major challenges we have as human beings and life in general is trying to, like, what you're digging into here, trying to dig into is like, how do we stay more focused? And I think awareness is the first step to your next summit. So being aware that you're kind of zoned out, right, is that in itself is hard, I think, for most people.
Well, I've also heard, and from watching movies, whether they're right or wrong, there's a lot of repetition, belay on, belay off.
Mm-hmm.
And you say it to each other. The communication factor has got to be huge, and the trust that you're talking about, the immense trust. Did that play into this, that you communicated and did repeat? Yes, I've got the syringe. You got the syringe. I got the syringe. Did you go through that?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Even in that moment of chaos, this is over an hour of just complete, like something like you're watching an ER episode on TV or something, but it's unfolding again, in the middle of this steep overhanging face. That, by the way, it would not have been 3 hours. It would have been more like 6 hours before we would have been able to get any help because of where we were positioned. And they would have had helicopter operations involved, which they wouldn't fly till dawn to try to do any intricate extraction, because where we were is a very difficult spot to pluck you off the wall. So you're constantly being the communication protocols. Even like I said, even when we're handing things to each other, even like when he hands me the Pedialyte, he's like, "You got it, I got it," and we literally have a transfer, both hands at one time, so that there's not an accidental slip, right? And so and often we'll say, "I got it," or you do constantly, "I got you on belay." You're tied in, right? You clicked it, and sometimes we're moving around in those situations. We'll ask each other, "You're tied in, right? You're good." So
right, because that's another one of your quotes is, "When anchors fail, people die." So you have to make sure I'm clipped, you're clipped, you whatever it is, even though you're trying to do the best you can for him. But that's where your years of training kick in, that you just automatically start saying these things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's interesting about it, how it links back to the business world, is that it is a different mind. It is a different level of care and awareness and focus and attention for someone to be that environment demands it. And really in the business environment, it doesn't really demand it always. Often there's a lot of gray area, right? And so I think it's helped me see that when you have a culture where you're really intentional about supporting people and letting people know and holding that rope for them in a way that they know that you don't have a physical rope, right? But that you're constantly attending to them and saying, I got you. And I don't know how we're going to get through this.
You touched on that because pandemic changed so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And with virtual teams, global teams, we reach, they're scaling, they're growing. How do you have that trust and bond, do you think? Is it possible to build that trust and bond through the virtual camera, through the lens? Or is this one of those things that breaks down because you're teaching all these things to people in live conferences and in office settings, but can we do it through the virtual lens?
Yeah, it's a great observation because I think it's extraordinarily more challenging. And so I think the main thing I want to encourage people to do is to be aware of that and go. And so let's say, like, if you weren't great at supporting people and engaging and building trust and building exponential commitment in your team in person, it's going to be even harder virtually. So I think the answer to that is to double down on your being intentional and consistent with, as example, regular one-on-one meetings. And when you can get to know the human being sitting in front of you, and this is my bias, and I've got a lot of experience with a lot of amazing cultures and organizations, and not every organization has this kind of culture, but when they know they're supported in their home life as well, we can try to isolate it, and to some extent it should be, right. But the truth is, you're the same human being, right? So, I mean, when life sucks at home, it's going to suck at work, and your performance is going to be affected. There's no way around it, right? So you can blow it off if you want to. You're like, well, they need to show up. When at work, they need to be working. I don't care what's going on at home. Well, when you say I don't care what's going on at home, you're saying I don't care about you, because your home life is important, right? And so, likewise, when work is super stressful, it impacts home, right? So, at Build-A-Bear, we had such an extraordinarily demanding environment. We worked a lot of hours, but we all knew each other's families, and we literally, my family loved the people, and like Maxine Clark, the founder of Build-A-Bear, we would have my kids over every Halloween, and she literally, I know her and her husband Bob literally loved my kids, and vice versa. And my wife and I, we all knew each other, and my boss, of course, everybody. It was a family. And I think there's a myth that, like, well, if you cross that line into this family, friendship, and love, that you're not going to be respected. That's BS.
I think people are craving for that in the new world.
For that, because everybody, well, how do I get people to stay, right?
Yeah, bro. Now, the other thing you talked about is the breakthrough momentum.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that how do you get back again, to build momentum after the setback?
Yeah.
Obviously, you had a major setback on this cliff.
Yeah, actually.
So how do you reset? Because like he says, no, we're not going down, we're going up.
Yeah,
how do you now go, wait a second, dude?
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, I was great. By the way, this is a little secret. I kind of knew if I had to make a bet in Vegas in that moment, we should have called one in. I knew enough about Steve and his background and how hardcore the guy is. He's like, imagine like elite Navy SEAL level of just like mental resilience and ability. And he's just been in so many environments where he's decided to keep going so many times and go through so much suffering to accomplish the mountaineering and mountain accomplishments and big wall accomplishments that he has. I knew if I had a bet that he was going to want to keep going. But on the momentum side, Master the Art of Restart first of all, it's a mindset to say, if we're pushing ourselves at all as human beings, we know we're going to have setbacks, whether it's a new exercise program or a project at work or, a sales call or anything in life that's hard. It's going to have a moment, at least one, if not regularly, where we're like, I've totally lost my mojo. I feel like I'm hanging at the end of my rope. I've literally taken a fall. Yeah. And so in those moments, it's really easy, right, to just go, well, I don't think that's going to work anyway. And we just go into a different mode or just lose momentum completely. So, but when we change them, this also enables us to, I think, step up in a more courageous way in our work, to expect that we're going to fall. Like, okay, we're going to probably screw some of this up. What happens if we do? So then the mindset shifts from being, what happens if I fall? It shifts the question to, when I fall, what will I do next? Right?
Big difference. Win.
Yeah, so different mindset. So then you fall, you're like, of course I fell. I'm human. This is hard. Steve took a fall on the fourth day. It was day 2. 30-foot fall, flying through the air. Then he restarts. He gets back on the wall. So Master the Art of the Restart is really powerful.
Manley Feinberg, I'm going to go to your website right now, but I got more questions for you. Don't go anywhere. But what are they going to find when they go to your website and learn more about you?
Thank you. I think I have a blog on there, lots of content, just direct content, and that can really help you with wherever you are in your life. It's really about building stronger relationships, essentially building commitment, and making sure you're building momentum in your work and your life.
I do have 2 questions more about you. So sometimes on Rock the Stage, we get a little bit more personal. We try to pull the mask off a little bit. So 2 questions before we wind down. The mountain within. You've stood on many, many mountains, high peaks all over the place. But what's been the steepest climb of your personal life? Nothing to do with mountains, but what's been your steepest climb personally?
Oh, that's easy. The pandemic for me was just brutal. I got so deeply depressed. Also, like fight or flight level anxiety every day for like 6 months straight. For about 6 hours a day, I was in full on fight or flight, and I thought we were, I didn't want to go bankrupt, so we sold our house. We moved out to Colorado, which turned out to be something we wanted to do anyway. It was, in 2020, in July 2020. But I really was just at my lowest. And my family, my kids, and my wife just kept lifting me up. My son took me camping in July that year we got out here. So, got to get you back on your feet, Dad. I'm very comfortable sharing that, by the way, because some people are like, well, you're a motivational speaker. I don't know if I would share that, but everybody, man, we're human, right? So that's one thing I want to, if anybody's watching this, they're like, they feel the weight of the world on them. And I work with a lot of tough guy, blue collar, amazing humans in the blue collar and the safety world, really courageous men and women. They're 4 times as likely to commit suicide in construction business. And so it's not about being tough. We have soldiers coming back, the hardest human beings in the world coming back, so I do want people to realize, hey, if I'm struggling, share it with somebody and get some help. We all do. We're human. It's just a matter of how guarded you are with it. And so I share that on stage, typically in my keynote, just to give people permission. And I've had people come up and say, man, that I needed that. Thank you. Or been going through some stuff or had a loved one. So we got to get real about that. So Yeah. Thanks for asking. I'm grateful. I didn't know you were going to ask that.
No. Again, these are like, hey, I keep things secret, man. Final one for you here is leaders often talk about the legacy. You have a great legacy with Build-A-Bear, with the leadership that you're doing. But I'm wondering if people are struggling with this legacy question. Is it something that's intentional, or is it something that we accidentally fall into to build our legacy? What do you think about that idea? Because more and more people are trying to create something, but they're like, I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah. I think, well, it's funny. The best example I have of that is the last chapter of my book, my buddy Rich, who I think he didn't even understand what he was doing. But what I learned in watching him operate on the planet is that how you show up for people and how you engage them and light them up and how much you pour into other human beings and support them, that's what I believe legacy is about. I don't really think it's Rich. My buddy Rich didn't have any money, by the way, but he left a massive impact in the world. And so for me, it's definitely about how you serve other humans and how you light them up and how you love them and support them in their work and in their life. So that for me is legacy.
Manley Feinberg, man, this has been a blast. Thank you for taking the time to get you here. And Robert Stack, who arranged this, our great showrunner here, another phenomenal guest. But it took a while, because you are a busy man. It took a little while to get you to land on the. But thank you for taking the time to being with us today.
Grateful to be with you guys, Rich. Thanks for everybody watching. Share this with anyone if you can. And Rich has got some amazing other episodes too to check out. So I'm grateful that you guys got me on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manley. Manley Feinberg. Remember the name. Go check out the book. Go check out the things he's got happening. But you're going to want to, again, take some of these leadership tips he's got here. It's mountain climbing, but it's leadership. It's risk. It's teams. It's communication. It's getting back up and going after you. How do you go back up and go further after what we just heard about? I mean, I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm going down, but no, they're going up. Think about how that applies to your business and your life. Think about the things you can learn right here at home. You don't have to go climb the mountain, but you can definitely learn a lot of things. We hope this has been helpful to you tonight. We hope this has maybe opened up your eyes. Maybe got your palms a little bit sweaty because their blood's pumping a little bit more. You realize maybe there's more within you than you even realize. Come on back next week. We're going to do it again. Rock the Stage Show every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you never know who's going to show up on Rock the Stage. We'll see you back here Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of Rock the Stage Show.